What's going on, everybody? You guys are now watching episode 3 of the 300 podcast brought to you by Encoded Media. I am Kelvin, and I'm brought to you by my guest here, Gilbert Moda. Go ahead, Gilbert. Take it away.
So, guys, episode 3, we are here. This is Encoded Podcast, also alongside with the 300 Club. And yeah, let's get popping.
All right. So one of the first things that we want to discuss, as promised, is on here the 300 Club. Not only are we going to be talking about the New York Yankees and the New York Mets, but we're also going to be having some, general discussion about some news going on in the MLB right now. To kick it off, the offseason just ended. The opening day is finally here, thankfully. But with that being said, the free agency class that we had this year going into it was probably not the best. It was highlighted by a couple, studs like Ohtani, Yamamoto, but you also had the four that were represented by Scott Boras. The four in which I am going to bring up is going to be Blake Snell. You also have JD Martinez. You can include him on there as well. Jordan Montgomery. Who else am I missing? Gosh, it's
Cody
been so long.
Bellinger.
Cody Bellinger, absolutely. What was his name? Matt Chapman. So it was not
Yeah.
four, but five of them actually. I want to put that out there. There was actually five good free agents represented by Scott Boras. But first things first, Cody Bellinger was the first to sign out of the four. I think it was a 2-year deal to stay with the Chicago Cubs. He was, highly scouted by the Yankees, the Giants, and so on. But before we actually dive into these players, I mean, going into it, what were some of the expectations that you had going in with all these free agents?
I expected them to get, good contracts, all to be part of playoff teams.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I feel like the free agent negotiations got mishandled by Scott Boras, which is probably a first in the history of his representations. But I'm glad in a way, in a weird way, that I'm glad it's happened. Not to the players specifically, but more so of, I would say, his leverage in baseball with
I
negotiation.
agree. Hot take, hot take, hot take. I agree. I agree. Before we dive into the free agency, let's first talk about Scott Boras. You're absolutely right. For those that don't know, Scott Boras tends to represent the top tier free agents. I mean, as a MLB player, any player, any athlete, most likely you would want to probably sign with Scott Boras. He is known for getting the highest amount possible in terms of dollars for his client. Now, from the team's perspective, there has been cases where, he's burned the teams. They acquired the services of players that are represented by Scott Boras and they didn't live up to the contract. And I feel like the rest of the league definitely caught up to that. I definitely agree with your point. Um, and I think that this could be controversial in the future, but there have been reports of, some type of something going on. Maybe the league has caught up to Scott Boras, but I do feel like, there's definitely something there. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
I'm gonna have a little deep dive with that. So I would say I did say that I think it's good for baseball if his leverage gets taken away, but I also don't want that leverage to be given to the owners either. And what I mean by that, I don't want the owners to have the leverage where they feel like they have to lowball every free agent. So there has to be some type of medium with the players union for sure. I'm gonna provide you some numbers and we're gonna speak on it. So for example, you got Cody Bellinger. He was seeking $200+ million this offseason.
right.
He got to sign a 3-year deal for 80 million. So that's a big drop off. You got Matt Chapman. He was seeking 150+ million. He got 54 million. I don't remember the amount of years in his contract.
Oh my gosh.
Blake Snell was seeking 250+ million, and he only got 62 million. And I believe it's a 2-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. And Jordan Montgomery wanted 170+ million, and he only got 25 million. And I believe that's for a 1-year deal.
Big
So
gaps. Big gaps.
definitely. And I feel like his mistake was not reading the room effectively. For example, with Bellinger, right? Bellinger's a guy, it's hard to judge him, bro, because he's had an MVP type year back in the Dodgers several years ago. He came as a rookie, a big rookie. Second year, he was great. And then we seen the fall off, the drop off, the massive drop off to the point where he wasn't even an everyday starter towards the end of his tenure as a Dodger, right? Platoon, he takes a risk, a chance. He goes to the Cubs, low risk, low expectations because they're not competing right now. He does great, ups his value again. He's a free agent and going to the season. I feel like realistically, if you would have asked us somewhere like 125 to 140, 150, maybe teams would have been more inclined to give it to him. But I feel like from a team's perspective, they don't want to invest long term in a high contract with him because they don't know if he could replicate this past season, with a higher average, solid home runs, solid production, great defender. So it's like it's a risk because you sign this guy for 200 plus mil and he stinks it up for like seven of those eight
And you're and
seven
you're
of those
tied to
years
that contract for the next
after that
6, 7,
contract.
8 years. Yeah.
So that's a concern. And I feel like Boris wasn't relating the reality aspect of it, the
I
concern.
I I feel like he wasn't fooling anybody.
No, he
Like,
was just reaching high.
right,
And he didn't
right.
want to budge.
And let's be honest, I feel like the free agency class besides Ohtani and I mean even you can even throw Yamamoto in that conversation because we don't know who he is,
Yeah.
but Matt Chapman, he started off hot last year, and then I know you're eventually gonna deep dive into like Matt Chapman and stuff, but like these players, we don't know how consistent they really are. Like you
From
like
a
you
year
mentioned
to year
before.
perspective. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of hard for a team to make that long-term commitment. Um like like you mentioned Cody Bellinger in his last year of the Dodgers, is like he lost his starting spot. He was struggling. He was abysmal at the plate. Like he was,
He was lost.
oh my God, like huge drop off from the MVP year. It's hard to be even to look at him at what he did that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to look at him as an MVP caliber player, and the fact that he did that. Um, going into an environment like the Chicago Cubs, I mean, I think that there were MLB offices that were, discussing like how he was making contact because there were times that he wasn't necessarily driving the ball, which could be concerning. It was just more about, slapping the ball and just trying to get on base. Which let me tell you something, hot take. One of my biggest phrases of my life, playing collegiate, high school, and all, is a hit is a hit. It doesn't matter if it's a slow roller, a chopper. It doesn't matter if it barely went out the infield. It doesn't matter if you hit a bullet off the wall. You get on base, a hit is a hit. It doesn't matter. I'll take it any way they come. So in terms of that, I didn't really care. But I get that for a team making such a big financial commitment, I think that they would expect more consistent contact in terms of power. Um, that was Cody Bellinger. What else you got for me?
So with Chapman, I wouldn't say 150 million, like asking for 150 was that crazy because he is a good third baseman. I just feel like maybe sweeten the deal with like a 3 year deal, maybe ask for 100, but then you got to sign with 54 because the market was dry. You know what I mean? Blake Snell, that one is the hardest one because he's a two-time Cy Young winner, reigning Cy Young winner as of last year with the Padres. He got a Cy Young with the Rays a few years ago. And this guy, like, he's an interesting player. You know why? Because I don't recall any other time in history where you're Cy Young and you lead the league in walks. Like, that's rare, bro. So that means that he's pitching a lot with runners on base. You get what I mean? And to win a Cy Young, to me, that's impressive because you gotta
That's very impressive. But you
you
are
gotta
rolling
jab.
you are rolling the dice,
Of course,
and
it can get
that's
ugly fast.
exactly. Now, before we move on to the Blake Snell thing, the Matt Chapman thing, phenomenal defensive player. I don't think that can be denied. Phenomenal defensively. Offensively started off hot last year. As the year progressed, he got a little bit cold and eventually he plateaued. It was rumored that San Francisco was, interested in him. I mean, Bob Melvin, his former manager, was there. But it really took really long to get there. You would think that if you really wanted to be there, that deal could have been done a long time ago, but it wasn't the case. I believe he signed in March. So I think there was something there holding it up. Maybe he didn't want to go to the Giants. I mean,
You know what I
hey,
think? You want to know my theory?
guys, go ahead.
I get an idea, and I kind of read somewhere that Scott Boras, when it comes to negotiations, he's not an agent where it's like an ongoing counter offers. Is he puts his offer, and other teams have to work to his offer or higher. And I think that's what backfired on him this
You
year.
read that
He
for
was
real?
not. Yes, you can look
Ooh.
it up. Think about all the contracts he's gotten. They never been lower than what he's asked for. And I feel like teams have kind of figured that out. And it's
And he
like
can do that though. He really can do that. That's Scott Boras, bro. He's the agents of all the agents. Like, he can
I
definitely do
feel
that.
like I feel like you can only do that until it fails. And this year was a failure in my
It was a
opinion.
failure. I think the message has definitely been sent. For sure. Um, but Matt Chapman, like, he's not an offensive player. I mean, he can be. He has the potential to be.
I think he's
The,
solid.
I think he's solid. at the end of the day, you got to hit. Like you could be a phenomenal defensive player, but at the end of the day, you got to hit. You know, the defense can only save you so much. You don't win the game 0-0. You win the game by scoring runs. That's how
Gotta
you
hit.
win games. You know, so
Yeah.
him being at AT&T Park, you know, the Giants home field. You know, we'll see how his offensive numbers are gonna look like. I don't have high expectations. Um, but we'll see. Now, Blake Snell, as you previously mentioned, I think he turned down a contract early on by the Yankees. Now, let me be honest. As a Yankee fan, I was a little iffy on signing Blake Snell because of making that long-term commitment. We don't know who he is. We don't know who Carlos Rodon is. You know, like we don't know who Nestor Cortez is. So it's just like you adding another question mark. You know, adding question marks doesn't make the team that much more certain. Um, and you know his asking price was a little high, but you know what? From a player perspective, you know we're players through and through. I guess we can see both sides of it, but with Blake Snell taking that risk of a contract, we don't know what he's gonna be like, how he's gonna age. You know that he has been a little bit inconsistent, is a little bit up and down. When he's stellar, Cy Young, but when he's not, he struggles. So you don't really know where he's at. Um, I just didn't want the Yankees to go ahead and take that risk. Now, him going to the Giants, I feel like that was a perfect fit. I don't think that was the fit that he wanted. But I mean, big pitcher's ballpark. If anything, that's only gonna help him. Um, I think the team, I mean, offensively might struggle, but we'll see. But
Think
I
about
think
it this way. Like you mentioned, you said the Yankees offer Blake Snell a contract. I don't exactly remember the term of that contract. I know it was less than what he was asking for, but it was somewhere north of over 140 million. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And he only signed, what was it? He signed for 62 million. I feel like that's a massive L, bro. And I feel like again, it goes back to
he's
my
a
theory because Scott Boras didn't want him to sign that. So it got to the point that the Yankees pulled out the offer. Whereas even with the value decrease and the offer could be more friendly for the Yankees, they still don't want to buy in. So that's again concerning with the mishandling of agency. Like if I'm a player, bro, if I'm a player in the major leagues and I
I'd
have
be
him as
so
an
tight.
agent, I'm firing this guy, bro.
Right, right,
I
right.
have to, bro. Because imagine me in the middle of my prime and I can't get the contract that I want, bro. That's not it, bro.
And before we get into Jordan Montgomery and the rest of the free agents of this year of 2024, Corbin Burns, so on, they're represented by Scott Boras. Now, as a player, I want to eat. I want to make sure that when it's my time to get paid, that the attention is on me and my family. You earned that right being a free agent. This is your one and only shot to get paid.
Yeah.
If I'm a player, I'm considering it. I'm generally considering it. You know, we're not MLB players. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I want to make that full disclosure. You know, we're not that. Um, but at the end of the day, if this is my opportunity to get paid, I want all the attention on me. How
Yeah.
bad do you want my services? I need to get paid. There's a big difference between what these free agents got paid and what their asking price was. And you know, Scott Boras definitely got exposed. It is what it is, you know.
And at the
Um,
end of the day, you also got to consider like a lot of people got it mistaken. Like you as the player, you're the boss of the agent, not the other way around. The agent is just an extension of you, a representative of you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
At the end of the day, you could also put some accountability on those players too, because they could have been like, nah, we're reaching too hard, or yeah, you trying your best, but it's not looking good. Let's pivot somewhere. Let's not just give them 100% of the decision making because that's what I get. That's the feeling I get. That it seems like it was 100% on Boris' side.
right. And well, we don't know. We can't confirm. We don't know that.
That's that's
Um,
that's my theory. That's what I would
Right,
say.
no, which is valid, which is valid. I somewhat agree. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you guys agree, go ahead and share so in the comments. Um, Now I think one strategy, I think his backup strategy is that once spring training starts, that Scott Boras prays on injury. And I'm not saying that he wishes bad on others and all, but once injuries start to happen in spring training, it happens. Injuries happens in the game, bro. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. um that he looks at the market then and assesses like this team lost their pitcher. Like I'm pretty sure that when Garrett Cole went down, he was probably looking at the Yankees like, the Yankees are gonna sign one of you guys. So again, I'm just assuming. This is just all our opinions. Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. We're not insiders, we're not reporters, we're not there with the team day in and day out. These are simply just our opinions. And if you guys agree, go ahead and like, comment,
Speculating.
and subscribe. Right. We're just speculating. Um But it would make sense that he would play on some injuries and going into spring training, so it opens up the window for his free agents for them to get paid. I understand that. Um, but what surprised me is that even though teams got injured, crickets. It
You
was
know what it is?
crickets.
You know what it is, bro? Again, if I were to be a player, I do not want to be a free agent heading into spring training. That throws my whole routine off
Oh my God, yeah,
because I don't
absolutely.
know where I'm going. I don't know how to prepare. I don't know what teammates I'm going to have.
If you got a family,
My
if
playing
you
time, my
got kids,
flexibility,
school,
taxes too. That's a big thing that I feel like people dismiss. Like when it comes to free agency, like taxes per state matters. Like sometimes we as fans get judgmental, be like, "Damn, we missed out on this player. We couldn't get him." But as a player, like put yourself in their shoes. Like you got to do what's best for your family. And if you go to a state that has high taxes, maybe you don't go there. You know,
right?
that's a possibility.
Or if the misses or whatever, if they
Yeah,
feel more
schools,
comfortable,
everything,
right?
everything.
Like those are things that you need to consider. Absolutely, absolutely. Valid take.
I
Valid
would
take.
say two. I feel like if you're a free agent heading into spring training, I feel like your value goes down in terms of your contract. So that's also why these contracts were low too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like again speculating, it seems like the Yankees they just moved on from them. They just moved on from anything Scott Boras at this time. So they
Yeah,
were trying to re-engage
respectfully.
conversations. They felt like it was a waste of time, so let's just move on from that.
They only
And
want to talk. They only want to reconnect with Scott Boras for one man right now, and one man
yeah,
only. That's gonna be Juan Soto.
oh
Um,
he's tied to him too.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if
To
I'm
him,
not
he might be
Corbin,
an exception. Yeah, yeah.
right, if I'm not Corbin Burns, if I'm not Juan Soto, and I'm represented by Scott Boras at the end of this year, I'm strongly considering changing the agency because at the end of the day, the money that I want to make for myself and my family in this opportunity is something that I want the full attention of the agent. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go into spring training. Valid point. Um, but to wrap this topic up, we're gonna get into the rest of the two free agents. JD Martinez, we spoke about in episode 2 of the 300 podcast. Make sure that you guys go ahead and watch that episode as well. The link will be down in the description. But JD Martinez signed for 1 year, 12 to $13 million around there with the Mets. I think that was a good sign. We spoke about it in a previous episode. I think that was a good sign. Veteran, knows how to hit, talks all about hitting. Um, I think that he'll be a positive influence. We don't have to deep dive into JD since we spoke about it before, but go ahead and share a little bit of what your opinions on JD and how that
I
went.
liked what he said publicly in his decision making into free agency. I
Speak
believe
about that. What exactly did he say, or what did you
I feel
hear?
like according to him, his final two options was the Mets and the Giants. The reason contracts were pretty similar. He felt like the Mets was a better move because of the field dimensions. He said
Absolutely.
he said he feels like in San Francisco is a bigger ballpark. You also have to consider the big wall in opposite field, in right field, and you also
Mhm.
have to consider the wind. And if he feels that at this point in his career, it's not productive or matches what he wants to produce, so he feels like coming to the Mets, it's a little better hitter friendly. The Mets also, I believe, last year moved in the fence and he feels like they're in a better position to possibly compete. Well, again, maybe not this year, but like next year. And he probably feels like there's a lot of better talent he can mentor too, you know? So I think those are
Yeah.
factors, sure.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And now the last free agent, Jordan Montgomery, former Yankee. Let me tell you something. As a Yankee, Jordan Montgomery loved him. It sucks that when he was pitching that he didn't get as much run support, but there was definitely a dog mentality in Jordan Montgomery. Now he gets shipped off for to the St. Louis Cardinals for Harrison Bader. I think it's fair to say that the Cardinals probably won that trade. And eventually he departs the Cardinals and goes to the Texas Rangers. Now and he got that ring. He got that ring. It's reported that the Yankees didn't see him as, like a playoff or big moment pitcher. I disagree with that, but we're not gonna get into that. The fact of the matter is, Jordan Montgomery wanted what's that pitcher's name from the Phillies? Aranola. I think he wanted Aranola money. And let me tell you something. You have to prove consistency a little bit longer than what he did in order to get that Aaron Nola money, and that's what he was demanding. Now, longevity wise, yeah, Jordan Montgomery's ceiling could be even higher than that. We never know. I think that he has a bright future in the MLB as that reliable starter, but demanding that money right now, I don't blame him for doing so. I feel like he needed to prove a little bit more, and I'm sorry, one playoff run doesn't cut it, bro. To make a long term financial commitment, he had to have gone Madison Bumgarner on these dudes in playoffs to get that money. You know what I mean?
I,
But what are your thoughts on Jordan Montgomery?
I feel like the best thing that he could have done and did was stay away from the Yankees.
I
Uh,
agree.
the last time it didn't work out with him being in the Yankees because he wasn't able to select his pitchers better. I get it
Valid
mixed up.
point.
I don't know if they wanted him to throw more fastballs or throw more off speed, but like, I forgot which of the other
Whatever,
it is.
whatever they wanted him to throw,
He wanted the
it
opposite.
it wasn't his most confident way of pitching.
The Cardinals
I
did the opposite.
agree.
It worked, and the Rangers too.
Great point. Great point.
So I feel like going back will do a disservice to him.
Hmm.
The biggest shock to me is I'm surprised the Rangers didn't re-sign him, but I'm also thinking it's probably tied to payroll, most
Right,
likely.
exactly. Or whatever their income was supposed to be with the TV
No,
rights and everything going
because
on.
remember they have Corey Seager in a massive contract. They got Seaman in a massive contract. Them two itself is like a billy worth of investments. You
Yeah.
have Adalis Garcia that is probably looking for a payday, a contract extension soon. You have the young third baseman Jace Young, I think it is, or something like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You got Nate Lowe, I think it is, or something like that too. The catcher's pretty good. They have a lot of good players that are gonna likely ask for big money at some point. You have the
Yeah.
Grom, big payroll too. You have Scherzer, depending. So these are things that I would probably say it factored into them not re-signing him.
I agree. I agree. And like I said, it was questionable. It was
Yeah.
questionable whether they would have the income. I think the best. I think if it wasn't the Texas Rangers, which was probably his preference, I think fit. I think the Boston Red Sox made a lot of sense. I feel like they needed a reliable starter. I feel like he would have taken the Chris Sale role and just be like that reliable lefty starter. But we all know right now that the Boston Red Sox, I don't know what's going on with them.
They're not ready to
Um,
compete, so I don't think
they're
I would
not
have.
ready. They don't want to spend either. I feel like the
Yeah,
Arizona Diamondbacks was a really, really, really good choice. I mean,
in
it's
the
crazy
club.
because he beat them and he joins them, which is
Yeah,
not something that you hear more or less, but it is what it is. Before we run out of time here, we're gonna go ahead and switch gears to a little bit more controversial. It was reported that Shohei Ohtani's translator Ipe stole money from him and used it to gamble. A lot of controversy revolving around that because personally, I feel like the MLB is trying to hide as much as possible because Shohei Ohtani is the face of the MLB. You don't want that circulating around his talent, or that talent. Um, I feel like they're not saying the full truth. I feel like they're definitely trying to sweep some things under the rug. We don't. How is it? And this is the question I want to ask. Besides, obviously, your opinion is how are these things? How is it that he was able to get that much money from Otani without him knowing? Like, I understand that athletes probably aren't the ones managing the money. It could be the misses, it could be the parents, it can be whatever. But to not, you really have to trust a guy to do that. And I'm not sure if I would have done the same thing, but we're a little bit short on time. But go ahead and share your opinions on what's going on with the Otani thing.
that's a very complicated topic because I feel like in one hand you feel like you have to make an example out of him because I'm assuming he should know the rules, but I also don't want to be ignorant and say that Asians didn't know about the MLB gambling rules in the US or whatever
I
the case
doubt
is.
it. And it's
Well,
not legal in LA. That's the other thing. It's not even legal in California. You know, which to me is crazy because now everywhere you look now it's
but
betting. Betting is that's what's going on right now.
I read somewhere that it wasn't coming from Cali. Though. Like the bets are being made in Japan.
From my understand, I mean, go ahead and make sure you guys fact check us and everything.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Based
guys
on
share
what
it
I
in the
read, though,
comments.
based on what I read, there was a bookmaker, like a private bookie,
A private bookie, yeah,
making the bets from Japan on games here. I don't know if it's baseball game that wasn't established.
right,
Like, there's no answer yet as to what sport it was specifically. But that's the rumor that the money was being used in Japan. I don't know if it was wired, whatever the case is, but that's what it seems. So it's tough, bro. It's tough. I feel like if the betting was not baseball, I feel like we should just look the other way. I don't think that should be an issue whatsoever.
right,
It's
right.
baseball and it's his own games. That's where it's a little tricky. But
It will suck, dude, but You know, that's the rule.
I will hate for him to get suspended because he means so much to so many communities and the game itself.
You know what gets me upset? It's just that whatever's coming out their mouths is so inconsistent.
Yeah.
We don't know what to believe, and it's like we just don't know. We really don't know. But I do think that there's something fishy going on.
Super hot take though. I would
I take,
say
I take, I take.
MLB will be looked as bad and horrible if it's confirmed that Otani has some type of involvement and he doesn't get suspended or a fine or something. And you have P. Rose that didn't make the Hall of Fame. I think that destroys baseball in a lot of ways, bro.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Because
there's
because Pete Rose was accused of gambling in his time as a manager and a player coach, and he's the all-time hits leader in baseball. So it's like
and he
that's
will
one of the
bet on his
greatest.
own team. He wildin'. Like,
So it's like you have one of the
that's
greatest players
crazy.
of all time, not in the best class in Hall of Fame there is, but you're gonna let this other guy go, you know? So it's kind of like I don't know. I just feel like throughout history, baseball has always been. I don't know. It's kind of weird when it comes to their investigations, their hypocrisy. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
want what's for baseball, you know.
And I just want to throw this on there. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that Rob Manfred is the best commissioner. I think he has his flaws.
I don't think he
We
is at
can,
all.
yeah, we can go ahead and deep dive into a different episode. Do you guys believe that Rob Manfred is a good commissioner? Make sure you guys go ahead and share your opinions below. Um, Now the last topic, due to time constraints that we're going to discuss, is Jazz Chisholm was on the Pivot podcast where he shared some opinions about his tenure on the Miami Marlins thus far. It was reported something that he was willing to share is that his experiences as a rookie. Gilbert, I know that you dipped it down with the podcast a little bit, but just to guide the conversation here, it was reported that Jack Chisholm, as a rookie, he's a very artsy person. He likes to draw. He likes to design. He's very big into that. He's very big into his appearance. As a rookie, finally make it to spring training in the hopes of making the major league roster. He had some veterans in the ball club that were treating him a little bit rudely. That they even poured milk on his cleats and cut them up. Um, First and foremost, just on that alone, what are your thoughts?
So basically hazing. I don't know, bro.
Yeah,
It's hard because it's been a tradition for sure. Like veterans do that to the rookies. But then again, it's like the game is changing too, and you also have a lot of different personalities. And I feel like at the end of the day, like the game could benefit from a lot of more black players and African Americans representing baseball and things like that can make them shy away from it too. You know what I mean?
absolutely. He also mentioned that he felt the need to stick up for one of his teammates who was also just coming up, a rookie, where he's coming in with all this energy, and he felt like a lot of the veterans were trying to push those individuals down. Like, I get it. You're a veteran. You've been in the league for a while. You want to go ahead and secure your spot. But he just didn't appreciate how it was being carried out, and he felt the need to, come into his own and become a leader and stick up for those guys on the Miami Marlins. So, um, what are your thoughts on veterans picking on rookies? Is there a limit? Obviously there's a way to be comical about it. There's a way to be mean about it. Um, have you ever been through an experience like that? Have you ever seen it? What are your thoughts on that?
Rephrase the question one more time.
That Have you ever came across an issue like that during your tenure playing in college and high school?
Yeah.
Have you ever came across what are your thoughts on it? Do you feel like it's
Me,
acceptable?
I mean, there's always gonna be players trying to pick on you. It sucks, bro, because sometimes you're there to actually focus on your craft, and these little distractions can either make or break your team in terms of camaraderie and chemistry. So I don't know. I wish it was different. And next episode we could deep dive in more on this topic as we wrapping it up right now. And again, thank you to you guys for listening, checking in. This is the 300 Club podcast. And Kelvin, you can sign off real quick,
All
man.
right. Well, like I said, we do have to, end this on this note. But however, we do want to thank you guys for staying tuned for our third episode here on the 300 Club podcast. Make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you guys go ahead and share your opinions. Feel free to follow us on all platforms, on social media, TikTok, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube. Do it all. Thank you guys for watching, and we are signing out. You guys take care.
Thank you guys. Take care.